Fridälskade vänner och shalom. Och vi har vaknat upp till ännu en dag här. Profetisk uppdatering. Uppenbarelseboken 12 och 1 startar vi med då. Ett stort tecken. Vad är tecken? Jo, det är en bild på att Guds rådslut sker. Och ingenting annat. Det visade sig i himlen. För vem? Ja, det är ett andligt tecken. Och det kan bara de se och förstå som lyder Herren alltså. Och vandrar i ljuset. En kvinna klädd i solen och med månen under sina fötter. Och en krona av 12 stjärnor på sitt huvud. Hon är havande, ropar i barnsnöd och födslovånda. Ett annat tecken. Samma sak där alltså. Visade sig också i himlen. Alltså i den andliga världen. Och se en stor eldröd drake med 7 huvuden och 10 horn och med 7 kronor på sina huvuden. Då kan jag berätta för er att innan allt det hände med Israel, oktober den 7 och så här, så visade Herren att han kommer att väcka upp fiendeskap mellan kvinnans säd och ormens säd. Och så berättar jag för er en annan gång att innan det här så hade jag en dröm när jag gick på en plats. Och helt plötsligt så förvandlades allting till tiden som var vid Hitler, ni vet. Alla dessa skyltar med judar förbjudna och så vidare. Och där talade Herren ifrån himlen och sa: de har hatat mig utan orsak. Och då visar ju det att Israel ligger väldigt mycket på Herrens hjärta. Det måste vi förstå. Så vi ber för Israel, välsignar Israel, välsignar judarna och det judiska folket. Hebreerbrevet 11:26. Han, det vill säga Mose, han räknade Kristi smärlik som en större rikedom än Egyptens alla skatter. Ty han hade sin blick riktad på lönen. Genom tron lämnade han Egypten utan att frukta för kungens vrede. Därför att han liksom såg den osynlige härdade han ut. Och kungen här kan vi ju ta en bild på vad som drabbar oss kristna i den här tiden då. Nämligen Satans vrede då. Som vi tydligt ser börjar komma fram. Men Mose, han såg och förstod Herrens härlighet, alltså vem Herren är, och fruktade Herren mer än människor. Det är exakt vad varenda en som nu kallar sig kristen kommer att stå inför i den här sista tiden som vi tror. Och Uppenbarelseboken är ju en helt underbar bok för oss som tror. Uppenbarelseboken 21 och 23. Staden behöver inte ljus från sol eller måne, ty Guds härlighet lyser upp den, och dess ljus är lammet. Och folken ska vandra i dess ljus, och jordens kungar ska föra in sin härlighet i den. Stadens portar ska aldrig stängas om dagen, natt ska inte finnas där. Och folkens härlighet och ära ska föras in i staden. Aldrig någonsin ska något orent få komma in i den, och inte heller någon som handlar skändligt och lögnaktigt, utan bara de som är skrivna i livets bok som tillhör lammet. Alltså bara de som vandrar i anden och i ljuset, och de som handlar i sanningen, alltså i ljuset och i anden. Herren talade till oss under tiden vid september 2001. Då kom en helt massa konstiga nya lagar som infördes om den internationella nya påhittade saker. Och Constant Kambi sa redan då att det finns en dold agenda som till slut kommer att riktas mot de kristna. Och genom FN Humans Right så kan det här snabbt bli en global verklighet. Och vi går till Uppenbarelseboken 13:3. Ni vet det där stycket som handlar om ett kontantlöst samhälle byggt på AI och kontroll. Då står det så här. Ett av dess huvuden såg ut som det hade blivit slaktad och dödat, men dess dödliga sår hade läkts. Hela jorden förundrade sig över vilddjuret och följde efter det. Och man tillbad draken därför att han hade gett sin makt åt vilddjuret. Och man tillbad vilddjuret och sa, vem är som vilddjuret och vem kan strida mot det? Åt vilddjuret gavs en mun som talade stora och hädiska ord. Och det fick makt att göra så i 42 månader, 3,5 år med andra ord. Det öppnade sin mun för att häda Gud och häda hans namn och hans tabernakel och de som bor i himlen. Åt vilddjuret gavs makt att strida mot de heliga och besegra dem. Och det fick makt över alla stammar, folk, språk och folkslag. Alltså globalt. Alla jordens invånare kommer att tillbe det. Alla som inte har sina namn skrivet i livets bok som tillhör lammet som är slaktad från världens grundläggning. Alltså innan världen fanns till. Men det finns ett annat härligt skriftställe som motbevisar detta. Eller väger upp ska vi kalla det för. Lammet och församlingen skall övervinna vilddjuret. Inte för att vi är något, utan därför att lammet är kungars kung och herrars herre. Och vi läser i Uppenbarelseboken 17 och från vers 12. De 10 hornen som du såg är 10 kungar som ännu inte har fått något rike. Det är det vi kommer att gå snart med New World Order. Men tillsammans med vilddjuret får de makt. Här står det exousia. Och eftersom Gud har all makt så vet vi att Gud tillåter detta att ske. Och de ska regera som kungar under en enda timme. Och då får vi ta den där tiden och lägga samman med alla andra tidsuppgivelser och då blir det ju 3,5 år, väl ganska tydligt. De behärskas av ett och samma sinne och överlämnar sin makt och myndighet åt vilddjuret. De ska strida mot lammet, men lammet ska besegra dem tillsammans med de kallade, utvalda och troende. Eftersom han är inte vi, herrarnas herre och konungarnas konung. Och det står ju att han leder konungarnas hjärtan som vattenbäckar. Då ska vi se här då. 10 kungar och 10 horn, makter alltså, får auktoritet av Gud att agera ändens tid här på jorden. Och då vet vi att det handlar om Satan som får fritt utrymme att agera på något sätt för att uppfylla Guds vilja och rådslut här på jorden. Och det står att de här 10 kungarna och 10 hornen, de ska få makt eller kraft att ta bort det dagliga och upphöja förödelsens styggelse istället alltså. Jaha, här har vi ju antikrist eftersom det dagliga är Jesus Kristus lammet. Förödelsens styggelse istället då, det måste ju bli antikrist alltså, eller en annan Jesus. Och just nu så är det väl New Age Kristus som upphöjs överallt i FN och i de här maktstrukturerna. Vi får lite ledtrådar för att förstå det här. Uppenbarelseboken 13:11. Och jag såg ett annat vilddjur stiga upp ur jorden. Det hade 2 horn som ett lamm, men talade som en drake, och det utövade första vilddjurets hela makt. Exousia står det där, tilldelad makt inför det, och får jorden och dess invånare att tillbe det första vilddjuret, vars dödliga sår hade blivit läkt. Det gör stora tecken och får till och med eld att falla ner på himlen. Eller ner från himlen ner på jorden i människornas åsyn. Ja, vad pratar man om nu? Jo, man pratar om as above, so below. Där har du den ockulta bilden från Babylon. Tydligen kommer det ockulta då att få göra falska under och tecken, precis som Egypten och Mose, ni vet. Då ser vi här då New World Order ta form, och från och med 1989 så sa Urban Baxter, han skrev i en bok år 1970, att när ni ser Tyskland enas så kommer födelsen av en ny världsordning att ta form. Och det var ju precis vad som hände. Och så ser vi ju detta då, en annan Kristus istället för den äkta. Här har vi New Age Kristus. Och alla media och nya filmer och allting, finns ju inte en film som inte innehåller reklam för denna New Age-gud som på ett märkligt sätt kommer att göra stora under och tecken för att lura oss att tro att det här är sant och äkta. Men det ska vi ju akta oss för och hålla oss till Guds ord och till det dagliga offret som har makt att bevara dig och mig ifrån mörkret. Gud välsigne alla, så kommer det först ett klipp här som är väldigt skakande, men det bekräftar bara det vi nyss har läst. Amen.
In which a precog works with a cop and shows that data is actually effective in predicting future crime. By the way, when this show in Fox came out, this was something that we talked a lot about because we said this is the world's attempt at making people feel comfortable with their liberties being taken from them, right? And this is the world that you're going to have to be in when we get to the world of Revelation 13, the world of the Antichrist. But nonetheless, let's read what it continues to say. It says Canada is trying to enact a pre-crime law along the lines of the 2015 show, but it is being panned about as much as the television series. Ottawa's online harms bill, including a provision to impose house arrest on someone who is feared to commit a hate crime in the future. Folks, that's no joke. That's not a joke. Let me read some more of this. It says the person could be made to wear an electronic tag if the attorney general requests it or ordered by a judge to remain at home. Mr. Varani, who is attorney general as well as justice minister, said it is important that any peace bond be calibrated carefully, saying it would have to meet a high threshold to apply. That's how they all start, by the way, just so that you know. But he said the new power, which would require the attorney general's approval as well as a judge's, could prove, this is his quote, very, very important to restrain the behavior of someone with a track record of hateful behavior who may be targeting certain people or groups. Okay, let me tell you what they mean when they say, hateful behavior. Christians who speak the truth about what's really happening. That's probably what they're talking about here. But let me read on. It says people found guilty of posting hate speech could have to pay victims up to $20,000 in compensation. But experts, including internet law professor Michael Geist, have said even a threat of a civil complaint with a lower burden of proof than a court of law and a fine could have a chilling effect on freedom of expression. Let me read to you a very, very poignant observation that the writer at Zero Hedge makes here. He says, while this is a dangerous step in Canada, I also wonder if this is where the burgeoning anti-hate crime programs across the U.S. are headed. The Canadian bill would also allow people to file complaints to the Canadian Human Rights Commission over what they perceive as hate speech online, including, for example, off-color jokes by comedians. There are now programs in multiple U.S. states to do just that. Encourage people to snitch on anyone doing anything perceived as hateful. The 2021 Federal COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act began to dole out money to states to help them respond to hate incidents. Oregon now has its bias response hotline to track bias incidents. Folks, this is not a lie. Let me read this to you. Watch this. It says, in December of 2022, New York launched its hate and bias prevention unit. Maryland, too, has its system. Its hate incidents example includes offensive jokes and malicious complaints of smell or noise. Folks, let me put a picture up that these people have posted that will show you exactly what they're looking for and what it looks like. Just read this for just a second. Look at how they categorize this, everybody. They talk about any act or expression of hostility or aggression that is motivated by bias, but does not rise to the level of a crime, right? I mean, isn't it funny? In other words, what they want to do is they want to shut your mouths. And by the way, they want to take it further than that. If you speak anything that might be offensive to them, like, hey, according to the Bible, you're living a sinful lifestyle, or according to the Bible, you're walking in an ungodly path, they want you to be able to shut your mouths at any cost and in any way. They don't want you to have a conversation in your living room. They don't want you to have a conversation amongst your family. As a matter of fact, here in the United States of America, we've already talked about this. They are encouraging you to turn your family in. Folks, I'm not joking. This was something that the Biden administration put together. They literally want you to turn your family in if you perceive something they say as being absolutely hateful. How do you define?
Då kommer det här ett klipp med Yair Pinto ifrån Israel.
The IDF has begun to uncover a tunnel network under Rafah that must have cost hundreds of millions of dollars, including smuggling tunnels that run under the border with Egypt. What will it take to cut off the sources of weapons and cash to Hamas? Meanwhile, Hezbollah seems to think it has the upper hand in its war of attrition on Israel's northern border, while Iran's influence can be seen throughout the region. Let's dive into the details. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your Boots on the Ground report about what is happening in Israel on the 215th day of the war between Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran. On Monday evening, the IDF launched an operation in Rafah, the southernmost city in the Gaza Strip, and it has already announced that its forces have taken control of Rafah crossing. This crossing is the main above-ground gateway between the Gaza Strip and Egypt, and one of the main reasons for the strategic importance of the region. For Hamas, the Rafah area is an oxygen lifeline, and for the past 20 years, it has been actively running a vast industry based on smuggling weapons, people, cash, and all manner of consumer goods through the tunnels running under the border with Egypt. For this reason, control of the city of Rafah is of great strategic importance for Hamas. However, as noted by CNN, the IDF moved into Rafah following a month in which neither side made any big moves, indicates that the limited operation is intended to put pressure on Hamas to accept the ceasefire outline and the release of the hostages. Of the 133 hostages still being held in the Gaza Strip, most are believed to be in Rafah, probably held in tunnels underneath the city. For these and other reasons, entering Rafah is significant in Israel's fight against the terrorist organization, but also poses some significant challenges for it. Now, let me explain a little bit more about why Rafah is so important to Hamas. As I said before, this city sites on the Philadelphia corridor, which is the border between Egypt and the Gaza Strip. There are tunnels running underneath this border, and it is through these tunnels that the vast arsenals of weapons and ammunition that the IDF has been finding all over the Gaza Strip for the past 6 months was delivered. Hamas terrorists have also gone out of Gaza through these tunnels, traveling from Egypt to Lebanon and even Iran to receive training in terrorist tactics so they could be sent back to Gaza and pass on what they've learned to others. Also, it is estimated that Hamas smuggles about $1 billion a year in cash through these tunnels, as well as narcotics and consumer goods. Hundreds of millions of dollars worth of illegal black market business is conducted in this way, with smuggling gangs in the Sinai Peninsula keeping most of that money. It's a big problem for Israel, and it's also a big problem for Egypt, which officially denies that there are any tunnels, even as officers in the Egyptian army have been caught working with the smugglers and Hamas. With Israel now in control of the Philadelphia corridor, some of those problems might begin to be solved. That is why there is a strong possibility that the IDF will be ordered to take control of the entire Philadelphia corridor before moving deeper into the city of Rafah itself. This will allow the IDF to find and demolish as many tunnels as possible, which will deprive Hamas of the weapons, cash, and other things it needs to continue the fight. However, Hamas has spent many years and a lot of money building this extensive tunnel network, so it's probably impossible to completely destroy it. I've said it before, and I'll say it once more. The next time you hear about the poor, starving people of Gaza, remember how Hamas spent most of the money that was sent to help these people. They used it on terror tunnels and terror infrastructure. If these people are ever going to have a decent life, the terrorist organization that steals everything that gets sent to them must be eliminated. That is what the IDF is trying to do right now, and it began by evacuating the civilian population from the eastern neighborhood of the city. The process began by sending thousands of Arabic language text messages, radio broadcasts, direct phone calls, and by dropping leaflets in order to warn the civilian population to leave the area. There is an estimated population of over 1 million civilians crowded into Rafah right now, and avoiding unnecessary harm to them is difficult but essential, both for humanitarian reasons and also in order to give Israel the international legitimacy to pursue the goals of this war. Of course, one of those goals is rescuing the Israeli hostages who were kidnapped into Gaza on October 7th, and the IDF is aware that this maneuver into Rafah puts them in danger as well. This might be why the operation is so far limited in scope. However, Israeli leaders can't delay making the big decision for very long. The Hamas leadership knows how important Rafah is to their survival and hopes to rebuild their control of the entire Gaza Strip after the war ends, and they're determined to do whatever it takes to keep it. This includes increasing the psychological pressure on Israel to reach a deal under the terms the organization wants even before the operation begins. That is why they announced that they were accepting a ceasefire deal as soon as they realized Israel was determined to move into Rafah. They did this in order to try and trick the world into believing they were being reasonable while Israel was determined to continue the war no matter what. But the deal that they agreed to was not the same deal that Israel proposed. It had conditions that Israel cannot agree to, and Hamas knew that. So did the Egyptian and Qatari mediators, who saw the plan while the Israeli negotiators hadn't seen it yet. But this is the Middle East, where lies and deceit are to be expected. This is another reason why Israel is using military pressure on Hamas in order to reach a prisoner exchange deal under conditions that will guarantee the security interests of the State of Israel. This is also being done in the hopes that by finishing off the military and political capabilities of Hamas, we can avoid more wars in the future. With this in mind, there is also a strategic value in taking physical control of the Philadelphia corridor, as this will put political pressure on Egypt to take a more firm stance against Hamas. Please continue to spread the truth, share our videos on YouTube, and follow us on social media. If you can do more than that, please take a minute and click the follower button and subscribe to this YouTube channel. It really helps us reach more people, and you will stay updated with what is going on in this region and can pray for the facts. Back to the news. In the last 24 hours, a barrage of 12 missiles was launched from the Rafah area towards Israeli community of Re'im. The Israeli air defense units successfully intercepted 5 of the incoming projectiles, while the rest fell in an open area. There were no casualties, and the rocket launchers were quickly identified and destroyed by an Israeli airstrike under the direction of the 215th Fire Brigade. Meanwhile, another 6 rockets were fired from the south of the Gaza Strip into the Kerem Shalom area, causing no casualties. But this is the border crossing with Israel through which humanitarian aid enters, which came under fire earlier this week, killing 4 IDF soldiers and wounding several others. Several governments and NGOs are demanding that Israel reopen this crossing despite the rockets that are being fired at it. Here at TBN Israel, we will keep a close watch on this situation to keep you informed about the latest developments. If I can make a brief comment on all of this, it should be obvious to everyone that Hamas does not care at all about the civilian population of the Gaza Strip. They are merely using these people as human shields and as pawns in the games they are playing with Israel and the international community. They don't care for the civilians in Gaza. They merely use and abuse them. Once again, I will ask you to take an active role in helping us share the truth about all of this by sharing our videos on YouTube and following us on social media. If you like these videos and want to see more, please help us.
Då kommer det här nyheter till slut då som visar hur Hesekiel 38 och 39 blir allt tydligare framför våra ögon med Ryssland och Iran och allt. Det här är en väldigt intressant uppdatering från World 24 News. Håll till god och Gud välsigna er.
In Israel, the sudden and unexpected action taken by Israel last night has once again disrupted the delicate dynamics of the Middle East. Despite Israel's strikes against Iran in response to Iran's attack on Israel, the level of tension in the region was significantly reduced by the reasonable rhetoric from both sides. Iran is currently facing the consequences of Israel's sudden operation in Syria last night. 4 Israeli Air Force F-16 fighter jets were observed heading towards the Golan Heights with the objective of targeting Damascus, the capital of Syria. Reports indicate that a building in the Damascus area was targeted by Israeli airstrikes, causing 8 injuries. Reports indicate that the strike was the first of its kind since the deaths of several Revolutionary Guard commanders in early April. Explosions were heard in the southwest countryside of the capital Damascus, specifically along the administrative border shared with Quneitra province and the occupied Syrian Golan Heights, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. No further information was provided in the statement released by the Israeli Defense Ministry. Reports indicate that a building near Necha, south of Damascus, has been occupied by Syrian security forces and Hezbollah. It has been reported that an airstrike took place last night targeting the said structure. As per the report from the Syrian official news agency Sana, a significant number of soldiers sustained injuries, and there was material damage in the Damascus area due to the airstrikes carried out over the Golan Heights. As reported by the local media, a series of missiles were launched at a building located south of Damascus. Shortly after the strike, ambulances were observed in the surrounding area. According to the Syrian Defense Ministry, 8 individuals were injured in the recent Israeli bombing on the outskirts of Damascus that took place late last night. This incident is the latest of its kind since the Gaza war. According to a statement from the Syrian Defense Ministry, there was some material damage caused by an Israeli strike on a region near Damascus from the Golan Heights. The observatory asserts that the targeted regions are widely recognized as strongholds of Iranian-backed militias and Hezbollah affiliates. Based on the information available, it can be confidently asserted that Israel has successfully neutralized Iran's presence in Syria. After the initial comments and evaluations about the attack, the true purpose of the Israeli F-16 fighter aircraft and unmanned aerial vehicles' bombardment of the building in Damascus, where pro-Iranian armed elements are located, has gradually become clear. The attack took place over the Golan Heights. The targeted structure was located in the Sayeda Zainab neighborhood, known for its presence of Iranian and Hezbollah forces. There have been allegations that the nearby structure functioned as a clandestine meeting place for armed individuals with pro-Iranian affiliations, where important decisions were made concerning the attack on Israel. There is speculation that Hezbollah's armed components may have a significant stockpile of military ammunition and equipment concealed beneath the building. Furthermore, it has been reported that Israel executed precise bombing operations to target this facility following the acquisition of specific intelligence data. In a remarkable display of strategic prowess, Israel capitalized on the early attack to make a significant impact in the region, effectively dismantling one of Iran's hidden strongholds in Syria before Iran's military proxies could respond. In early April, a nearby building to the Iranian embassy became the focus of the latest Israeli airstrikes, reportedly aimed at the Damascus region. In addition to several other senior commanders, Mohammad Reza Zahedi, the commander of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards in charge of operations in Syria and Lebanon, was eliminated. As a military vlogger, I must highlight the significant event where Iran responded with force by launching over 300 ballistic missiles and drones at Israel approximately 2 weeks later. This marked a historic moment as it was Iran's first-ever direct attack on the Jewish state. Despite the successful interception of most missiles and drones by the IDF, the U.S., and other regional and international allies, unfortunately, a civilian in southern Israel was injured by shrapnel when a few missiles landed in a nearby base. Over the years, Israel has consistently targeted sites in Syria linked to Iran, while Iran's proxy forces continue to launch attacks on Israel in a similar fashion. Israel has responded to Iranian proxy forces with a series of coordinated air, land, and naval strikes. In addition to Gaza, there has been an escalation of assaults in Syria and engagements in gunfire with Hezbollah, an armed force in Lebanon near its southern border. As per a security source, the strike in Syria last night occurred just south of the Sayeda Zainab shrine, where Iranian and Hezbollah personnel are stationed. However, the insider emphasized that the website was not being operated by Hezbollah or Iranian forces. Russia, a regional power and ally of Syria and Iran, has experienced the direct consequences of Israel's comprehensive attack on Iran's proxy forces. The scrutiny of Russia's involvement in the developing Middle East issue has intensified due to the direct confrontation between the two former adversaries. However, it is worth noting that tensions between Israel and Iran currently appear to be relatively low. Reports from the U.S. and Israel indicate that an Israeli strike on the Iranian city of Isfahan caused damage to a portion of a Moscow-supplied air defense system, rendering it inoperable. Initially, Iranian media reported that new Russian fighter jets were set to arrive in Iran the day after the strike. However, they later retracted this claim without offering any explanation. At a meeting in Astana, Kazakhstan, Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu expressed his country's readiness to enhance military cooperation with Iran for mutual benefit. Israel has expressed concerns about the potential consequences of the growing defense cooperation between Moscow and Tehran. This is especially worrisome given the increasing tensions between Israel and Iran, which could potentially escalate into a full-scale conflict. Israel is particularly focused on the alleged Iranian purchase of weapons from Russia. Of course, Israel is not the sole nation facing these challenges. Israel is poised to utilize a substantial $26 billion aid deal from Washington to bolster its air defense capabilities, owing to its long-standing relationship with the United States. According to Shay Harzvi, a former Deputy Director General of Israel's Ministry of Strategic Affairs, there is evidence of collaboration between Moscow and Iran in areas such as cyber warfare, intelligence sharing, and the development of spy satellites. He mentioned that it appears Russia is ready to provide Iran with Sukhoi Su-35 fighter jets to modernize its outdated S-400 air defense system and its aging air force. Russia is Israel's adversary. It provides support to the radical axis that opposes us, Harzvi declared. Moscow's role is increasingly crucial as the conflict between Israel and Iran, along with its proxies in the region, escalates, he emphasized. According to officials, Israel allegedly violated Iran's air defenses by utilizing high-speed air-to-surface missiles to successfully neutralize an S-300 battery stationed at an air facility near Isfahan, which was originally manufactured in Russia. Israel was able to respond with a reciprocal de-escalation, ensuring that neither side lost face in the face of Tehran's extensive missile and drone attacks on Israel. The invasion of Ukraine by Russia is closely tied to Iran's drone industry, presenting Iran with a chance to strengthen its weapons with the support of Russia. Iran has a shortage of fighter jets and advanced air defense systems, while Russia requires more drones and missiles to effectively conduct military operations. Both nations have a mutual dependence on each other. North Korea, a nation that has provided Russia with weapons to combat Ukraine, sent a delegation to Tehran this week, indicating a notable shift in policy. According to Major General Amos Gilead, a former senior Israeli Defense Ministry official, the conflict in Ukraine has led to a closer relationship between Russia and Iran. With Iran gaining access to important technologies from Russia, its capabilities are expected to see a significant boost. The close bond between President Vladimir Putin and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, along with their extensive security collaboration, have played a significant role in the recent enhancement of Israeli-Russian relations. Ever since Moscow invaded Ukraine in February 2022, tensions between the two nations have been on the rise. Given Israel's close links to the United States, maintaining neutrality has become impossible. As a result, ties between Russia and Iran have been strained, and relations between Russia and Israel have been negatively impacted. On the other hand, one could make the case that Russia is seeking to increase its military footprint in the Middle East, which includes establishing a naval base in Libya. Additionally, its partnership with Iran can be seen as a component of a broader plan to confront the United States and its allies in that particular area. There have been rising tensions over Syria due to Israel's decision to stop regularly informing Russia before conducting strikes on militias supported by Iran in the war-torn nation. Israel considers the ability to target locations in Syria crucial in its efforts to prevent Iran from providing weapons to Hezbollah in Lebanon, which is Iran's most formidable proxy organization. Russia, on the other hand, has significant air defense capabilities in Syria and is a key ally of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, maintaining military bases in the country. Following Israel's missile attack, Russia aligned with Tehran. The attack was described by the Russian Foreign Ministry as a defensive action in response to the airstrikes on Iran's diplomatic facility in Damascus 2 weeks earlier. This power distribution in the region seems to have greatly disrupted the long-standing dynamics and global significance of the regional balance. There seems to be a shift towards a return to the bipolar order of the Cold War, with Iran and Russia aligning together, while Israel and the United States stand united on the opposing side. However, as history has shown, these relationships are subject to change, and regional dynamics may shift once again. In this case, we will follow the instructions given by the parties involved. In the Middle East, Israel and Iran are currently locked in a heated exchange of words. With the two sides engaging in direct conflict, armed proxy groups are gaining increasing prominence in the area. It is evident that Iran has intentionally orchestrated this situation. In recent days, the Tehran dictatorship has increased its reliance on regional armed groups after its planned attacks on Israel did not yield the desired outcome. Hezbollah is a highly recognized proxy organization with a significant presence in southern Lebanon. There have been reports of a significant increase in the material and military support provided by Iran to this outfit. Actually, the recent news about the Tehran regime's highly secretive military convoy to Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, accompanied by 2 senior Hezbollah leaders, had a profound effect on the agenda. However, the media reports that emerged after this announcement revealed the outcome of the 2 Hezbollah officials who accompanied the convoy leader, provided by Iran, to Hezbollah. Let's uncover the fate of the Hezbollah officials and delve into the intriguing story behind this extraordinary military convoy. Initially, there were reports indicating that the convoy had been targeted by an airstrike specifically aimed at senior Hezbollah leaders. According to the Israeli Defense Forces, senior Hezbollah officials Mossab Khalaf and Bilal Khalaf were killed in an Israeli drone strike in South Lebanon. In a tragic incident near the Israeli border, specifically on a roadway near the hamlet of Maydoun, we received news of the unfortunate loss of Mossab Khalaf and Bilal Khalaf. According to the IDF, Mossab Khalaf was responsible for planning and carrying out numerous attacks from Lebanon, primarily targeting Israeli interests in the Mount Dov area. Officials have reported that Khalaf collaborated with the Lebanese branch of Hamas to carefully plan and carry out his strikes. It is widely acknowledged that Bilal Khalaf supported and promoted these daring actions targeting Israel. Despite this, the IDF aircraft managed to eliminate both senior leaders in Lebanon. As we mentioned before regarding the bombings on Mossab and Bilal Khalaf's vehicle, Israel also targeted a Hezbollah military convoy. There were claims that a military convoy had been tracking the vehicle of Mossab and Bilal Khalaf before the incident, and that it had been sent to the armed group in Lebanon through Iranian intermediaries. Furthermore, Lebanese media has confirmed the veracity of the attacks on the military convoy heading towards Hezbollah. Following the incident, it was reported that the munitions in the military convoy had been severely damaged. The precise attack by Israel did not successfully deliver the supplies that Iran was trying to provide to Hezbollah at the intended location. In a remarkable display of efficiency, the Israeli soldiers managed to accomplish 2 objectives with a single strike. The Tehran government will likely face significant consequences as a result of these critical assault actions. In recent days, Tehran has been implementing a strategy by offering financial and military assistance to its regional armed components, rather than directly targeting Israel. However, it is clear that the Tehran regime's systematic efforts always fall short. Of course, it is important to acknowledge the exceptional work of the Israeli Air Force in this particular context. Israeli fighter jets maintained a constant presence over the region as they monitored the events of the day. During this time, Mossab Khalaf, a prominent leader of Hezbollah, and a military convoy en route to his armed group in southern Lebanon were successfully neutralized. As per the Israeli Defense Force, facilities in the southern Lebanese towns of Tyre Harfa and Aita ash-Shab were targeted by Israeli fighter planes. These locations were known to be gathering spots for Hezbollah members. Furthermore, Israeli fighter jets targeted Hezbollah facilities in Kfar Chuba, southern Lebanon, as well as other regions of Markaba. Israeli fighter jets swiftly responded to the firing of 2 anti-tank missiles from Lebanon into the border region of Dov Mountain. In a similar fashion, Hezbollah attempted to launch attacks while IDF fighter aircraft were in the area, but the pro-Iranian group was ultimately unsuccessful. In addition to the fighter jets, there have been reports of successful strikes on Hezbollah sources in the area by the Israeli army's main battle tanks. In order to eliminate the threat, Israeli tanks reportedly launched artillery strikes near Yarin and Daira. Israeli tank artillery has successfully targeted and neutralized Hezbollah launch positions and IHA launchers in multiple locations. Recent reports indicate that a missile launcher in Sheba was also struck by Israeli tank shelling. The armed group in the area is extremely upset about the Israeli army's continuous bombings in Lebanon. This anger stems from the recent deaths of 2 Hezbollah officials and the destruction of a military convoy intended for the pro-Iranian Hezbollah armed group. On the other side, Hezbollah made a bold statement announcing the start of a counteroffensive in response to the Israeli strikes and IDF fighter jet airstrikes in Lebanon, which resulted in the elimination of Bilal and Mossab Khalaf. The situation in the area escalated following this news. An armed organization has claimed responsibility for launching rockets at Mount Hermon in northern Israel. According to a statement from Hezbollah officials, a significant number of Katyusha rockets were launched towards Israeli army sites in the vicinity. Several rockets were intercepted by the Iron Dome air defense system, while others were seen hitting open areas. No damages or injuries were recorded. While no town sirens blared, the alarms at military installations nestled in the mountains and vast open spaces were triggered. After the announcement, Hezbollah claimed responsibility for the dam and stated that they had launched numerous Katyusha rockets at Israeli army outposts in the vicinity. The armed organization that supports Iran stated that the strikes were in response to the deaths of Mossab and Bilal Khalaf. Hezbollah was confirming the deaths of two of its top commanders through these remarks. With the confirmation of these casualties by Hezbollah, the number of deaths among armed pro-Iranian factions has surpassed 300. This figure does not include the pro-Iranian affiliates of Hezbollah in Syria and Iraq. The Hezbollah group is experiencing significant setbacks in their conflict with Israel due to the escalating casualties in both countries. Israel has a unique chance to capitalize on this situation. In the region of Mount Dov, also known as Shebaa Farms, there is currently no border barrier. This area, claimed by Lebanon and hosting multiple military outposts, lacks any local communities. Israel has a unique opportunity to strengthen its influence in the region as Hezbollah withdraws. On the other hand, Iran is directly affected by the diminishing influence of the Hezbollah armed group in the region. Due to the Tehran leadership's ineffective use of the Hezbollah trump card, Israeli influence is on the rise in the area, and Iranians are organizing violent demonstrations against the regime. This condition weakens the nation's administration. Unquestionably, Iran's economy has been greatly impacted by these unfavorable events. Given the current circumstance, it is crucial to analyze how Iran will develop its regional strategy and whether it will be involved in the Middle East's pursuit of power equilibrium. It seems highly unlikely that the Tehran dictatorship will relinquish control of the region to Israel and abandon this power struggle. However, Tehran may need to temporarily adjust its approach in the region due to ongoing Israeli military operations that have been causing significant damage to Iran's supported armed groups. It is highly likely that Iran will continue to offer financial and military assistance to its armed forces in the region for the time being. This could potentially transition from armed groups in Syria and Iraq to the Hezbollah organization in southern Lebanon. It is evident that both Israel and the U.S. face significant threats from armed groups within their borders that are aligned with Iran. Israel faces a significant threat from pro-Iranian armed groups in Syria when it comes to the Golan Heights. On the other hand, the U.S. is deeply concerned about the armed groups that back Iran, given its military presence in Iraq and Syria. The recent reports of renewed attacks on U.S. bases in Syria and Iraq highlight the gravity of the situation at hand. Iran will carefully analyze the vulnerabilities in Syria and Iraq and make necessary adjustments to its strategies. Currently, the collaboration between the U.S. and Israel appears to be stronger than Iran's intentions. Thank you for following us.